Wargamers, welcome back to the channel, Death from Above Wargaming. I'm Aaron, coming back with Mission 2 of our Alpha Strike campaign. This is exciting. So, if you remember and if you've watched the first mission, the 5th Atrean Knights are on their way to clan space against the wishes of some of the politicians and lords within the House Marek. And so, due to some meddling, the 7th Donegal Guard were sort of tricked into assuming that the Atrean Knights were on the planet of Eaton attacking when in fact they were just staging for their final jump into the clan front. So the 7th Donegal Guard now attacking the Atrean Knights in Mission 1. I don't want to spoil it, but you have to know. The Atrean Knights did win, and they won decisively. They didn't lose a single unit. They did get some sweet salvage, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And so as basically the ones on the offensive now, they get to pick the next mission. So I did promise that I was going to pick something new and exciting, so I'm going to select Area Denial. That is in this track in our new updated grid, and Area Denial is the mission where we basically divide the map into 8 pizza slices, if you will. And there's a 12-inch radius, so really 24-inch diameter dead zone in the middle of the map. And basically whoever controls the most number of slices at the end of the turn scores an objective point. We are employing the overrun rule, which means if multiple forces are in the same slice, whoever has the most size wins. So, you know, if one force has a size 3 and size 4, and the other force only has a size 2 and size 3, the size 3, size 4 force would win that point, would win that slice, which would again go towards the total count to see who gets the objective point. Anyway, we did talk about this, guys, in our Hyperpulse uplink dedicated to Area Denial. If you want to go check that out, feel free to do so. But that is the mission for tonight. I do want to also let you know it is high escalation and 270 points of Alpha Strike action. So what we're going to do is first we're going to dive into the repairs. We'll get into the forces, and then we'll get this thing started. So first, the repairs from last week. We'll talk through not only what's getting repaired, but a little bit of how that works, how salvage works. So stay tuned, that's coming right up.
All right, guys, so we are going to talk a little bit about the repairs from the last campaign. So in between campaign mission rounds, basically, you get to spend your support points to repair your forces. Now, on the side of the Atrean Knights, there are some mechs that were damaged, some vehicles damaged, and one juicy piece of salvage. So the way it works is for every point of armor, you spend 1 support point to repair it. If you take internal structure damage, any critical hits, you cannot use that unit in the following mission. So for example, Catapult here, the Wasp, both taking internal structure damage, and Catapult also taking a weapon hit and a motive hit. So that mech out of commission for this upcoming mission, essentially. It'll be down for repairs. So all in all, the Atrean Knights doing okay, and in addition, they salvaged that LRM carrier that was abandoned and investing 17 support points to fix that thing up, so maybe they'll get to use that potentially in Mission 3 or Mission 4. On the side of the Federated Commonwealth, the Donegal Guard here looking at 2 destroyed units, the Centurion that hurts, and also that Savannah Master knocked out of the fight. They lost 1 LRM carrier because, again, it was abandoned and then salvaged by the victorious force. The other LRM carrier down and out of commission for repair, having sustained internal damage and motive damage as well. Although important to note, non-critical motive hits to vehicles do not prevent them from being used. It doesn't count as downtime for the vehicle. So for example, if you do have a motive hit on the vehicle that is not generated by a critical hit, and also it does not have any other critical hits, no other internal structure damage, you can just repair it and get it back on the field for the following mission. What else do we have here? Savannah Master, the Vulcan, the Locust, just taking light armor damage. So overall, the Donegal Guard really didn't spend a whole lot of SP because most of their units, again, destroyed or completely undamaged.
Okay, so pretty exciting stuff. LRM carrier added to the force of the Atrean Knights. All in all, looking pretty good. One Centurion destroyed, but everything else seems to be able to be used. Remember, certain units were not available for this mission to pick, and so let's check out what is coming to the table in tonight's mission. All right, so we'll start here with the Atrean Knights. We have two great formations. We've got a command lance and we have a support lance. So in the command lance, we have Falcon, the commander of the 5th Atrean Knights, in his trusty Zeus. This is a 9R1, so this is a custom variant. Basically has an extra pip of armor, an extra point at short range, and drops the rear-mounted weaponry. I've got Broadsword in a Marauder. Got Vegas, she's back again in her Rifleman 4D. And of course I've got Sweeper in the Wolverine 2. So this is a WVR 7M. All of these mechs very potent. Vegas obviously bringing that overheat to bear, which we saw in last week's mission, can be very devastating. The Marauder, just all around tough. This is just a great mech. And that Wolverine, very fast, has jump jets, so has the mobility. But with the overheat value of 1, it can deal 4 points of damage at short and medium range, so it can be very devastating in the right position. So these guys, again, Command Lance, we have Falcon with Tactical Genius. We're going to give the Marauder, that's Broadsword, he gets Combat Intuition, and Vegas and the Rifleman is also going to get Combat Intuition as well. Now they're backed up by a support lance of vehicles. We have a Hunter light support tank, 2 Scorpion tanks, and a Gabriel Recon hovercraft. Now I unfortunately couldn't fit them into a light battle lance because you need 2 paired vehicles, and I just couldn't make it work with the points and the forces I had on the roster. So I opted to go with a support lance, which means half of these guys get some of the abilities from the command lance. So I can equip basically both of the Scorpions with Bloodstalker, which is a pretty slick ability, and I think will help them to just pick something and harass it. And as long as I keep them together, I think they could be pretty potent with that ability, and it will offset their slightly higher skill level. Lastly, I have Torch, and she is piloting her Corsair CSR V12. This is a really great aerospace fighter. It's well priced, does 3 points of damage at short and medium range, has lots of armor, and it has good thrust as well, so she will be able to kind of cut across the board, maneuver, re-angle, do those striking attacks, and again, if I can get a good rear shot on one of those mechs, it's up to 4 points of damage. Also, this Corsair comes equipped with 2 bomb racks, and I'm going to be equipping Inferno Bombs. The Inferno Bombs are very potent. They deal, obviously, heat to a target that is a mech, so, the intention was certainly to go after, big enemy mechs and shut them down with those Inferno Bombs early in the game and try to mitigate movement into other quadrants on the board. So we'll see how that pans out. That is the force of the 5th Atrean Knights. So the Donegal Guard, I'm doing something a little different here. I have 2 formations. It's mostly mechs. It's 8 mechs, so 2 full lances here. The first one is a heavy battle lance, and the Force Commander, Scrapper in his Cyclops 10A. This is a great mech. Again, potent at short and medium range. Also does excellent damage at long and extreme. A little lacking on the armor side, but still has tons of structure, so will be tough to bring down. And then the thing that really is terrifying is Prybar in his Clanbuster King Crab. So this thing is just ridiculous. So first of all, it costs a ton. Prybar is a skill 3 pilot, has gobs of armor. I think it's maxed out at 10. Only 4 structure, but still 14 pips to get through is nothing easy. And it does 4 points of damage all the way out to long and 3 points at extreme. And it has an overheat value of 2. So if you get into medium range with this thing, it can do 6 dice. That's disgusting. The Merlin is back. That's Blaster. He said it at the end of the last match. He said he'd be back. He is back. So the Vulcan 2T sinker is back as well. And that basically makes up the heavy battle lance. So they'll all have 6 points of lucky to work with. And when you're talking about this King Crab getting rerolls, that could be painful. Now we also have a Pursuit Lance. So this is a new formation I have not tried yet. This gives the entire formation Bloodstalker, And instead of picking a target, they have to pick an enemy formation. So they're going to pick the Atrean Knights Command Lance as their formation to Bloodstalk, if you will. And this is comprised of a Jenner JR7F, so this one is tough, all lasers, very fast. A Commando 5S, which the Knights fielded last week. This is a great all-around mech, but it is very light, paper thin. And then a pair of Locust 1Es. So these were, I had one of these in the Donegal force last week. Now I'm bringing two. So these guys will not only harass the Command Lance, but they will also be covering a lot of ground very quickly. And then lastly, I have an H-7A Warrior attack helicopter. Now again, do our house rules, aerospace fighters, anything airborne cannot control a quadrant, however they can contest. So the goal with the Warrior is really to get it across the board quickly and chase down any light vehicles or light mechs that get out into an open space and contest the quadrants where it can. It also has decent long-range firepower, so it can plink away things, especially those light vehicles that are hiding behind hills and things. This can get the elevation to hit them. So looking forward to using this thing to maximum effect. So overall, the Donegal force, very fast, very powerful. It is going to be a tough match for the Atrean Knights here. And guys, don't forget, you can get any of these awesome Iron Wind medals and also some of the plastic mechs out of the box sets right over at Ares Games and Minis. You can find them online. You can find them on Instagram, also on Facebook as well. So if you want to add some of these units to your own force or grab some vehicles to start playing Alpha Strike, because in my opinion, you gotta have vehicles for Alpha Strike. Head on over, check out Ares Games and Minis. Again, great prices, great guy, everything you need for BattleTech right there in one spot. All right, guys, so there it is. We checked out the forces, we checked out the mission, we checked out the repairs. There's nothing else left but to start rolling some dice. So stick around, turn one, coming right up.
Warrior 1 to Iron Lead, I've got visual contact at 5 clicks. Enemy mech lands with vehicle support. Scrapper to all commands, prepare for attack. Attention, Atrean Knights. Your aggression on this world will not be tolerated. Donegal Guard, this is Falcon of the Atrean Knights. We had permission by Governor Becker to stage on this world. We're here to claim supplies to replace those that you destroyed in an unwarranted raid. Liars. Cowards. They both deserve death. Alright, Knights, you heard the man. They deserve death, let's give them what they want. Crossbow Lance, lock down the right flank. King Lance with me. Secure the perimeter and watch for crossfire. I wouldn't try to stay out of range of that King Crab until it says it has some fresh tech.
Roger that.
This is Sweeper. Right with you, boss.
Stay sharp. We've got aerospace support coming down from orbit in about 30 seconds.
It's gonna be a bad day at the office for these guys.
Yeah, we're gonna make sure of that.
All right, here we are on Eaton, back again. This time, though, venturing down into the swampy lowlands, trying to make a critical strike on a Donegal Guard supply facility. The Atrean Knights hoping that by taking this facility out, or at least taking it out of the hands of the Donegal Guard, it will cripple their ability to sustain the offensive. Of course, the Atrean Knights right now still trying to figure out what is going on. They don't understand why the Guard are attacking, as the Inner Sphere in a bit of an alliance as that clan threat pushes ever inward towards Terra. But such is the political machine. Now you'll notice on the battlefield here I have placed these little dice with the red dots on them. These represent roughly the 12-inch radius, 24-inch diameter no man's land. And of course there's the central dot there. So anything that is within 12 inches of that central dot is in no man's land and is not contesting any slice. So the slices are basically divided up, you know, like that, and then there's one diagonal, so you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The other interesting thing about this mission is you deploy on a corner. So this is an alternate deployment method. You don't deploy on an edge, you pick a corner. And so the Donegal Guard, thinking long and hard about this, they want to come in here on this edge. So they're going to get 6-inch zone basically to come in. So they're going to move in from this corner. That means the Atrean Knights are moving in over there. So at the beginning of the game, I do need to declare my Bloodstalker ability. I already mentioned for the Donegal Guards, for that, that Pursuit Lance, that they'll be going after anything in the Command Lance. The Scorpion tanks do need to be a little bit more specific. However, if they do not have line of sight to their target, they can pick a new one, or if it's destroyed. So they're going to start out, and they're going to pick the Commando. That is it's a pretty small unit, and if they can get fire on it, great. If they can't see it, I can opt to switch off of it. So that's why I'm picking that one. I'm not really sure what I want to be doing with those Scorpions quite yet. So we'll see. Guys, we're going to move on to the board next, kicking off turn 1. Don't go away. Alright guys, here we are, mission 2, turn 1, exciting stuff. So the Donegal Guard, again, with a Pursuit Lance and a Heavy Battle Lance, and of course this chopper here, which is not part of any formation, and on the side of the Atrean Knights we have 2 formations and an aerospace fighter. By rule, aerospace fighters always move last. And so the Donegal Guard are going to have 3 different, basically, formations, if you will, 3 different groups of units to move. The Atrean Knights will have 2, but they'll always get that last move with Torch and her trusty Corsair. So here's how we're going to start this one out. We're going to start with our Pursuit Lance. It's very simple to me, because this river providing lots of difficult terrain. This is particularly wide here, so I'm going to run the Pursuit Lance down this way, and I can get them very easily, either just leap them over this or get them around and behind. I can spread them out pretty good, and I can push back into to enemy territory there. The chopper I might just move right across the middle here to cause some trouble, and I might keep the altitude low initially in the game to keep it shielded. And then the Assault Lance I want to kind of move into here, or the Heavy Battle Lance, I should say. And so, you know, I want to kind of put Prybar here. He'll have good line of sight. I mean, the central hill could be problematic, and then Scrapper and the others can kind of move around. I will be skirting no man's land at some point, but as long as somebody is in here, I can use that Vulcan's jump jets to kind of get it over and back in here if needed. So that's the plan. So we're going to, again, start with this lance here, this Pursuit Lance, and I do have to start within a 6-inch, basically L shape. I can move them on from here. So I'm going to pick this point as I'm going to be moving them down here. I'm going to sprint with this Locust. They do need to spend to go downhill. So I've got 2 of these Locusts, and I want to keep them pretty tight. They'll be sprinting. Same thing with the Jenner. And then lastly is this Commando. So that is the Pursuit Lance. Alright, on the side of the Atrean Knights, my secret weapon here is my Gabriel. This thing can really scream, so I can get it up and around into some backfield positions. I'm even thinking about potentially using it to draw enemy fire where needed. Now the great thing about this Gabriel is it moves 20 inches on a sprint. So if I keep it on relatively flat ground, like around this area here, it can go pretty far pretty quickly, although I will run right into that, that pursuit lance, which could be problematic. This way, you know, got the hill, got the river, you'll be sort of in, I guess although it's a hovercraft, I can just scream right over that. So maybe that's what I'm going to do, actually. I think that's just, talking through that out loud kind of helped. So I'm going to sprint this guy, again, kind of coming in at that 6-inch point, and I'm going to get him right to here. Now these Scorpions, remember I do have Bloodstalker on that commando. I could switch that off if I want. I do need somebody in this, you know, in these two slices here. So I'm tempted to kind of keep these Scorpions, you know, like for example, if I draw a diagonal from center here, this is kind of where the line is. So if I keep them, you know, on either side here, they'll have, you know, pretty nice line of sight to things coming from this angle. So that's what I might do, and I am going to sprint those tanks. I'm going to put one here, and I'm going to put one here. And then lastly, I have this Hunter. Now the Hunters actually can sprint 8, which is exciting stuff. I do want to get some early fire where I can on the pursuit lance, really on anything. And this Hunter can do 2 points of damage at long range. So I'm thinking, you know, anything that goes over the bridge is going to have no line of sight, and it's going to be very difficult. Conversely, I could park a unit right here, and people would be hard pressed to peel it out of these quadrants. So just need to kind of consider what I want to do with this Hunter. I think the best thing to do for now is actually move it up and over the bridge to here. All right, so next I'm going to choose the Warrior Helicopter to move in. It might be cheesy, but at the same time, I feel like it's fair because, again, the Atrean Knights always get that last move, even when they lose initiative, you know, with that aerospace fighter. So looking at the Warriors' total move here. So one interesting thing, right, remember, VTOLs cannot sprint, so this thing, unfortunately, not quite as fast as I might like it to be, but I'm going to get it to here. And we're going to fly this thing at a level 2 elevation, so that's just barely hovering over the ground here and is below that central hill. I don't think anything's going to be able to shoot this turn anyway, just because I think most units are going to be sprinting, but we'll see. Okay, so actually, I walked all the way around the other side of the table and then came all the way back because even though, again, the Donegal Guard have more units, the aerospace fighter does not count towards, you know, the units when you're doing the unequal number of units for initiative. And so actually, because the Donegal Guard are, you know, essentially lost initiative this turn, they do need to finish moving. So I have to take my pursuit lance, my heavy battle lance and get it on the table. So what I want to do here is I want to take this Vulcan, and it is going to basically run right behind this brick building here so you can't see it. And then, so these big mechs, this is tough because they're all so slow. I got a lot of speed in this lance, but then I've also got, you know, typical House Steiner recon mechs here in the form of Cyclops and King Crab. I'm going to move the King Crab there, again, trying to get him to this point here. I've got Scrapper in my hand. I think Scrapper is also going to push. There is a little bit of room between the river and the forest here. There's a little bank. I think you'd have to cross through some forest here, but I'm actually going to move Scrapper and Blaster and the Merlin in this direction there. So that wraps up House Steiner, or the Federated Commonwealth, I should say, their move. And so we're going to go back to the Atrean Knights. We'll move the Command Lance, and then we will bring Torch on the board. Falcon leading King Lance here. So we are just going to move right up this side of the map. I want to back this Gabriel up. I can take some shots here. You know, remember that Pursuit Lance over here has Bloodstalker. against the command land. So if I can go in the opposite direction, maybe I can pull them across. I don't want to split, never split the party. It's a thing I learned in Dungeons & Dragons. I'm sure it applies here somehow. So I'm going to keep the command lands together. And I do have this forest here to provide some cover. And in fact, you know, what I can do is be a jerk and kind of move dudes right on the edge to claim some cover and snipe out of it, potentially while I'm holding down that slice, as it is outside of no man's land. So anyway, what we're looking here is, remember, I can come 6 inches in, so I'm going to add 8 inches to that, which basically gets me here to 14. This is where I want to move sweeper right here. And that is his movement. And then just following up behind him, we've got, I'm going to put Vegas here, got Broadsword here, and then I'm going to have Falcon in his Zeus 9R1 surveying the battlefield. Okay, so next up and last is Torch in her trusty aerospace fighter. So I need to pick a point on my deployment edge here and zoom it across the board. Now I don't need to end in the opposite edge. I can, for example, fly, you know, from here over to here, and then the next turn she would come back in on here and could go over to there. So basically you can do anything you want as long as you're going across the board. So what I was initially thinking was zooming her over here and dropping a nice Inferno bomb here. But as I thought about it, you know what, while it would slow them down and it would be hilarious, it really wouldn't do much because they're not shooting next turn, most likely. They're going to have limited line of sight. I think that would be a wasted attack. So instead, what I am going to do is have her come on, scream across the table here, and conduct a striking attack against Scrapper himself. Now that will put her in the line of fire of that warrior helicopter, most likely at short range, but you know, guys, I don't really care. So it's a warrior. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically zoom her across the board, and she will be conducting a striking attack in her shooting phase, essentially coming in from that side there to here, and that is what we're going to do. And then she's going to actually end off the table right about here. So that's kind of how we're going to do that. And that will be her movement. So all the units have moved, aerospace is moved. We do have a couple of shots coming in from that warrior and that Corsair, so stay tuned, guys. Turn 1 shooting coming right up. The warrior ducking, weaving, dodging, sprays some bullets at short range, trying to hit that strafing aerospace fighter. The warrior can't get within short range of the line. We did some laser line checking here, and the flight path does not cross within 3 inches of that warrior. So he is going to need 7s to hit. He does have 1 point of damage at medium range, so this warrior trying to at least disrupt the flight path here of the aerospace fighter. He gets it. So that is 1 point of damage to that aerospace fighter. Now it does have a high threshold, so it's not going to force a control check or anything like that. But now, the striking attack against that Cyclops. Screaming in overhead, flying down, diving in. And we need 6s to hit that Cyclops. Here we go.
Put some fire on that damn fighter.
Not a bad opening. So 3 points to that Cyclops, 1 point to the Corsair. It's a good trade. Now guys, remember, no scoring on turn 1. Turn 2 is where it happens. Alright, Wargamers, we are back. It is turn 2. Some damage has been dealt. That aerospace asset already proving to be worth those points. Wasn't cheap, 31 points for that fighter at skill 3. So it was a bit of an investment there, but already I feel like it's paying dividends. So the Atrean Knights lost initiative, and I'm going to start with my vehicles. So this Gabriel, we know exactly what it's doing. And remember, guys, the name of the game here is to get into as many quadrants as I can. And if I own more than the opponent, then I am in excellent shape. So this Gabriel here, so I'm going to get him right to about here, and that will put him in this quadrant over here. The Scorpions debating. I mean, do I want to just plant them or do I want to move them a little bit? I think I might want to move them a little bit. So I'm going to move this one. I mean, what's 21 inches from here? There's no way anybody is getting within their range. So I'm going to move this one 6 inches to here. And then, you know, we have this hunter that is well positioned here, but I think I'm going to keep these scorpions together. And then this hunter, what I'm going to do is actually, I'm not going to sprint it. I'm just going to move it because I may be able to indirect fire with this thing. And it does have an extreme range value of 1. So, you know, can I have 1 at extreme range? So we'll see. But that is the vehicle lance there. So 3 sprinting, 1 just making a standard move. All right, so I'm going to use this warrior to full effect here. And I am going to just advance it 9 inches. I'm going to keep it at altitude 2 here. Okay, we are back with our command lance here. Now what I need to do is get this Wolverine across this line, and I can't. So that's unfortunate, but you know, such is life. So I was hoping that I could get the Wolverine in this, the Gabriel in this, you know, and then I'd have basically four quadrants actually under my control, which would be fantastic. But I can't. So I only have 3. So we'll see what the Donegal Guard can pull out of their hat. But that sort of sucks. I'm gonna move Vegas to here. I'm going to move Broadsword up to here, and then Falcon and the Zeus is going to go here. You know, in retrospect, I realized I should have moved one of these lances prior to moving that other lance. I guess I'm bad at math tonight, but realistically, it should have been, you know, I move 1 on that side, and then what would have happened is I would have had triple on this side, so more than double, or double or more. So I would have had to move 2. Now, it looks like these locusts, Donegal Guard may be coming out of this one with a point if I play this smart. We'll see. And it really is going to depend on how far that Vulcan can go. So that's the pursuit lance there. And then this this heavy battle lance. So these guys, yeah, I don't know here. I mean, what I do know is I want Prybar to go here. And I think I'm going to pivot him like this so that when that Corsair comes by, I should get a rear shot. And I probably should have did some pivoting with my pursuit lance as well. Maybe I'll do that now, since, you know, I'm thinking about it. And then these other guys here. So this Vulcan can't get far enough. Similarly, like if I had a Savannah Master, you know, you can zip it across the board. Again, the power of these hovercraft in these capture missions, very critical types of units. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this Vulcan downhill. Scrapper, I'm going to spend the point to take him downhill as well. And then what do I want to do with this Merlin? Similarly, I can get him to there. So that is that. So basically we have this entire battle lance sprinting. We've got the this lance sprinting, and we've got the warrior just chugging along there up the center, which I realize now is potentially a really bad idea because I could just crush it with the aerospace fighter. Unfortunate. I always got to be thinking, but I was not. So speaking of the aerospace fighter, so I marked it with a base on where she ends her turn. So basically, this purple Marek base here, courtesy of Polygon Masterworks, by the way. They make some really cool, high quality bases you can check out if you want to either buy decorative bases, or I use them actually as markers. I find them really useful for that. So anyway, she can move 3 inches in either direction, you know, off this thing. So I'm trying to debate on where I want to go. Now, again, everybody here sprinted, so the only thing that's going to be able to shoot is that warrior. So I think I'm going to move here, And then what I have here is I have this laser, and I can just get her across basically to just where that scorpion is, and she'll be right over that. Both pry bar and the warrior, but I don't think I can strafe both of them. They need to be, I believe, within 5 inches. I need to check the rule on that, but either way, that's where she's going, and she is just going to be hunting this tiny little bird here. It's like when the hawk goes after the sparrow. I'm not sure this warrior is going to be around next turn, but we'll see. Could have been a critical error on my part. Hopefully, the warrior's high TMM will keep it alive. Torch coming in hot, doing a striking attack against this warrior helicopter. Now, the warrior is very agile. Remember, they get a +1. Essentially, it's +1 to hit them. So the way I look at it is that they just get an additional 1 to their TMM. So normally the warrior is a TMM 3. Basically, I'm adding 1 to that. So I need an 8 to hit with her gunnery, and then the penalty for the striking attack. So she does 3 damage at short range, and again at low altitude because no one else can really shoot me except that warrior. And I'm going to roll these up individually. If I can get 2 8s, that warrior's toast. If I can get 1, it puts it in withdrawal, which is awesome. So here we go. Need to roll it up real good here. Come on. Come on, Torch, I believe in you. There it is. All right, so 1 point of damage against that warrior. It is enforced withdrawal, but not destroyed. Very annoying that warrior is. But because the flight path of the Corsair crosses across the warrior, it will get a shot off. And again, it's 1 point of damage. They are at short range this time. So the warrior is a skill 3. Only going to need a 6 to hit. Here we go. Gets it. So it's another point of damage on that Corsair. But again, she's trading blood for blood, but I think she is out on top of this one. Now, in terms of the control points. So again, draw an imaginary line from the corner to the center, from the center out to here along the middle of that line there. Basically, we have units in 1 slice, 2 slice, right, which is basically comes all the way out to here, and then in this 3rd slice as well. Now on the Atrean Knights side, they have 3 as well. All right, those scorpions were able to get out outside of the corner here. So again, you know, drawing an imaginary line from the center to this corner. So they've got 1 here, 1 slice here. They've got the 2nd slice here. There's actually nobody in this slice. This guy's actually in this slice here, if that makes sense. So remember, you know, like a pizza, it's 8 slices. So the Atrean Knights also have 3. So it is tie, and that means nobody is going to get an objective point this turn. So the stakes are getting higher and higher. It's turn 3 next, guys. Stay tuned. We'll see what happens. All right, guys, we are back. It is turn 3. I was debating furiously over whether to use my Tactical Genius special ability that Falcon has in that command lance, but ended up that the Atrean Knights won initiative 10-4. So I probably should have rolled first and then wasted 10 minutes thinking about it and reading the rule book, but that is the way these things go. So the Atrean Knights having won means that the Donegal Guard are going to need to make a move first. So clearly the first thing that's going to happen here is this warrior helicopter is just going to back up 1 inch, and this is considered, this point in the corner here is considered, the point at which they move back, anywhere in that deployment edge. So he's just going to move a full hex 1 inch back to here, and I am going to elevate him up so that I can start shooting to level, let's say level 6. So he'll be up here somewhere, and basically can just try to shoot. I thought about trying to keep him safe, but frankly, at this point, it's critical that I'm able to deal some damage to something, maybe even the Savannah Master, so maybe what I might do is pivot him this way as well. Not the Savannah Master, the Gabriel, sorry. So we'll see. Okay, that is the warrior. Now, let me think about this. They lost, so I need to move one on the Atrean Knight side, then I need to move both of these lances, and then back to the Atrean Knight side. I want to make sure I get it right this time. So let's head to the other side of the table. So I think the key decision point here is with this command lance. If they expose that Vulcan or do anything crazy, I can move Vegas or Broadsword or even Falcon, who has a pretty decent extreme range attack, up into this little gully here and sight down over that hill while the rest of the command lance moves behind this forest. The river here, very small, only 1 hex, 1 inch wide, so would not require a ton of movement to get through there. So in that regard, that decision point is key. So I am going to start with my vehicle lance. Now remember, I have Bloodstalker against that commando. So these scorpions hungry, out for blood. I do want to continue pushing up though. I do want to continue along here. So I guess the thing that I'm thinking about is, if I stay stationary, obviously I get the -1, but I think I need to move. I'm not even sure I'm going to be in range because they don't have any extreme range abilities. So I'm going to just move them along the riverbank here. This hunter, so he is the only unit that is holding down this area here. And with that helicopter sort of out of play, I feel pretty good about his position. So I'm going to just plant him there. And the Savannah Master, I'm sorry, the Gabriel. It's very insensitive of me. The Gabriel here is, I'm debating on what to do, right? Because again, I need to be over this sort of corner mark here in order to get this. And I know that's critical because this Wolverine definitely able to cross the line this turn and contest back here. So the Atrean Knights will be able to control 4 this turn, but if that Gabriel goes down, it's tough. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about shenanigans. Remember, these things walk on water, like one of our favorite biblical characters. So I can get this thing up and down this hill, claim a sprint maneuver, which is a +5 TMM, and get him behind this rock. Like so. Which will likely obscure it from most attackers. Maybe not that warrior, but, I can deal with it. So I think that's the play I'm going to go with, at least this turn. Again, getting those early objective points key. So we'll try that. And then again, next turn I can just zip him back over the hill here and be a cheese ball. So that's what I'm going to do. Donegal Guard have some hard decisions. 2 lances to move. That's coming right up. Alright, so I can actually get into some serious backfield turf here, I think. So remember, our corner line is, I'll use the laser sight so I don't knock over everything on the board. So really we're trying to get across this line here, which it's hard to hold all these things still at the same time. But the Locust can definitely do it. I can get that Locust, this lead Locust, right here behind this rock, not even have to worry about the water, and essentially, just the toe is sort of crossing the, I think the base is fully within, so I'm going to consider him in that back quadrant. This other Locust will be backing him up here. The Jenner Abstract coming around as well. Now the thing is, I need to be considerate of the following. I need someone in this slice here. I need someone in this slice here, that's Prybar. And then these 3 mechs are moving across. Now the one thing I should point out is these trees, we talked about this last week, we always play with level 3 trees, so Prybar not going to be able to see over this forest. Really what I need to do is get him out to here so that he can deliver some long-range fire. This commando, honestly, I may just move him here. I know it sucks because the Scorpions are probably going to get to redirect their Bloodstalker, or maybe I can keep him somehow in line of sight. regardless, that's the move with this lance here. Like I was saying, we're just going to move Prybar to here. This way he can draw line of sight out. Still not going to be in range though. I'm starting to regret my positioning with this guy. Crap. Alright, so this Vulcan is going to continue the advance. However, the Vulcan's going to jump to here. I'm going to try to flush that that little Gabriel out. I don't think he does not have line of sight, unfortunately. But the jump move, I think, is the right move there. And then as far as Scrapper and the Merlin are concerned, okay, so Scrapper's going to go right here along the coast, and the Merlin is going to do the same. What I'm probably going to do, what I might do, is activate the Merlin's jump jets next turn and get him into this little island and try to move around this way, and I can keep Scrapper on a nice line there. Again, still struggling with what to do with this King Crab. I could move him up to about here, which would give him some more line of sight. And I guess if things really push comes to shove, I can pull the Commando back into this quadrant to score the points and just start running him up to get him in the fight. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Let's get back to the Atrean Knights. We've got the Command Lance followed by our favorite aerospace jock. So a couple of things here. First things first, we absolutely want to get Sweeper into this quadrant here. That's critical for the Knights' scoring strategy. Now I did measure, and what I'm looking for is 34 inches. That's Vegas's move plus an extreme range shot. And she is within 34 of that Vulcan, as is Broadsword as well. So they're both going to make standard walk moves, if you will. And she's just going to go here, and Broadsword just going to basically line abreast right next to her there. And they'll have line of sight directly to that Vulcan, which I think is great. And then the Zeus here does not have range. He's just out of range of basically the helicopter, the Vulcan. So, you know, I think what I'm going to do is actually sprint him to here. Now, when it comes to my aerospace fighter, I have two options here, really. You know, one, I could go across the board like this and go after Scrapper again. If she does another 3 points of damage to that mech, it's internal, and that could be huge. Conversely, I can start harassing this force over here, and I mean, she could put one of those locusts into withdrawal almost immediately. She needs 8s to hit one of those locusts, only 6s to hit Scrapper. So despite the fact that I feel like this side of the board here, you know, could potentially get overwhelmed by those recon mechs, because remember, they're now controlling, you know, basically that entire corner of the board. I do think that I want to keep the offensive up on these assault mechs. It's an unfortunate thing, but this swamp is like a foot slog, and these big assault mechs not doing so well. Even the Command Lance over here having you know, hard time maneuvering and making up any ground with all this, you know, this water, and so that is that. I will say that I did build this map before I picked the forces, and I thought, you know, I thought that they would be able to maneuver a little bit better than this, but really they're having a hard time just getting off their deployment, and, you know, again, just sort of stuck out in that periphery outside of the no man's land, that dead zone in the center. Again, really hard pressed here, and I think the aerospace fighter was actually a really good asset to bring in this battle. I should have brought one on the Donegal side. However, you know, very difficult actually to field units with the loss that they took. That Centurion is like a key point value, and then they were down 2 LRM carriers and a Savannah Master as well. So again, you know, the last battle really sort of set the tone for what I could pick here. We'll see. So again, Torch screaming across here, going to do another strike attack. And again, these mechs keep sprinting, so the only thing that can really shoot back is that Warrior and potentially the Vulcan as well. I'm going to move her across, and then guys, we're going to get right into shooting as it is already turn 3. So we'll see what happens here. There she goes. Turn 3 shooting coming right up. Donegal Guard up first here. So this warrior has a couple of options. One, I could shoot the Corsair, or two, I can take a lucky shot at that Gabriel. I would need an 11, but all it takes is one hit and it goes into forced withdrawal and I score an objective point. Those are big stakes and I think it's worth it. So that's what we're going to do. That warrior, trying to be a hero, spraying autocannon rounds and missiles. Here we go. Trying to hit that Gabriel. Need an 11. Well, he tried. It was a valiant effort. So this Vulcan has no line of sight to the Gabriel. The rock's squarely in the way here, but it is going to torso twist and try to get a shot off on that aerospace fighter as it screams in for another striking run. Diving in, that Vulcan at medium range does 1 point of damage. It is a skill 3 pilot, so he is going to need a 7 if my math serves me right. Here we go. No good. It's unfortunate indeed. Now, one thing I did in between this shot and the last is I added more markers. I thought it might be easier. So basically, you can draw a line. You can kind of more easily see the boundaries there for the various quadrants. So hopefully that helps in visualizing these different slices here. But that is that for the Donegal Guard. They have no other units that can shoot. Moving on to the Atrean Knights, we'll see what they can cook up here. So I have a few definite shots and one option here. So we know that Vegas and Broadsword are going for that Vulcan. We're just going to open up at extreme range, let the bullets and PPCs fly. Scorpion tanks have no line of sight. This Hunter can shoot either that Locust or the Warrior, because remember the Warrior is now at level 6, and I really dislike that Warrior. But at the same time, softening up that Lance over there would be pretty sweet. So lastly, of course, we have Torch, and she is going for Scrapper, trying to put 3 points of damage on him. It's almost all too easy. So let's start with these mechs here. Now, Broadsword is a skill 2 pilot. He's an elite, very good, commands his own lance, if you didn't know. And so he's only going to need 9s to hit this Vulcan. I'm going to go for broke here. I'm just going to group fire, going all or none. Got none. And then Vegas, she only has 1 point of damage at extreme range here, and so she needs a 10. Here we go. Almost. Now, anytime I see a big number come up on one of the dice, it feels like it's just so close, but yet so far away. There we are. Torch coming in. The trees are not enough to save this poor Cyclops from yet another striking attack. So she gets 3 dice. She is screaming in at low altitude again, which is basically like short range. So, we're looking at actually 7s is what she is going to need here on this attack run. So 7s is what we're going to need. Here we go. So not only is that 3 points of damage, which is going to generate a critical hit because it hits internal structure, but we have another critical hit here as well. Here it comes. 2 critical hits from this aerospace fighter onto this poor command mech. This is the Force Commander. This is like an assassination run. So here we go. Critical hit number 1.
Critical hit arm.
So that is a fire control hit. This mech is hurting. Second dice roll.
Warning, ejection has failed.
Cockpit of the Scrapper blown out. The commander dead. Can you believe it? I'm gonna have to come up with a new character here. That is unfortunate. Maybe he ejected. I don't know, guys. You'll have to leave it in the comments and let me know what you think. That's a telling and decisive blow here
to this Donegal Guard force. Their commander gutted out in a vicious, vicious striking attack from the aerospace fighter, and it is only turn 3, and we still have that hunter left to shoot. Smoke wreathing and billowing out of the giant glass cockpit of the Cyclops. It is destroyed. So that changes things. Glad I waited last on the hunter, because no need to hit that warrior now. That whole side is in a bit of disarray. I am instead going to go for that that lead locust. We're going to see what we can do here. So this hunter actually does 1 point of damage at extreme range. Here we go. I need a 10. No good. That just would have been salt in the wound there. So guys, that wraps up turn 3. Cannot believe we got that 12 on the critical hit table. That is just an awful way for a mech like that to die. Let's talk about scoring. So now I think we can kind of see here, right? We've got, what zones, who's where. So we've got Sweeper there. We've got the Gabriel there. We've got a whole bunch of dudes here and there. And of course these Scorpions well in this side. So the Atrean Knights controlling 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrants. And then on the other side of the board here, we've got basically the exact same thing. We've got the Donegal Guard in 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, it's going to get interesting next turn, because this Gabriel cannot actually hold this quadrant against the Vulcan, because the Vulcan is a size 2 and will overrun the Gabriel. So even if the Gabriel runs and hides, this Vulcan could be the key to it. But right now it's still a 0-0 game going into turn 4. I'm still blown away by that headshot. It happens though. It is turn 4, guys. We are just about to start movement. The Atrean Knights lost initiative, score of 10-5. I did not employ Tactical Genius because, again, would have to beat a 10. And frankly, I don't see any opportunities. What I really want to do is save that for when it's going to matter with combat intuition. And, I can get some shots with these guys before anybody moves and really, because like I said, turn the tide. Now, I have an issue here because, as I noted, that Vulcan is going to be able to overrun that Gabriel. So I need to think about how I'm going to put fire on that Vulcan. I have my aerospace fighter, which is awesome, very reliable and very useful. However, I think this turn what we're going to see is a lot more mechs walking on that side of the table, so they'll be able to return fire. In retrospect, all the sprinting just made it basically like a turkey shoot for for that Corsair. So I need to make the first move with the Atrean Knights. That's the bottom line here. So what I am going to do is I'm going to continue forward with these Scorpions. Now, the downside here is that, again, limited line of sight with this forest, and they're currently blood stalking that locust. Now, the one thing I came to realize is, even though it didn't matter because they didn't shoot last turn, I have to basically declare that I'm moving the Bloodstalker target at the beginning of the turn, and if I don't have line of sight to something, again, I can switch it. So I don't have line of sight actually to that locust right now. It doesn't say that I need to have line of sight to something in order to switch it to that, but just a fun fact there. So I am going to leave it on that locust for this turn, and I'm going to move these Scorpions like so. So I'm going to move this one up here, and I'm going to move the other one right behind it, like there, and maybe I can get some shots this turn. Before we get to the Hunter, this Gabriel doing exactly what I said I was going to do last turn, up the hill, down the hill. I'm going to get him to here, where he is on the, again, this side of the line. Counts as a sprint move, so I'll get a nice juicy TMM. And then let's just check to see. Yeah, I guess I'm going blind here. So that Hunter is well within the quadrant. So I will keep that Hunter still. All right, on the side of the Donegal Guard, they actually need to move. They need to move 2 units here because Again, I've got 1 unit left. They have 3. So, the first one that we're going to move here is this this VTOL, and he's just going to move back again 1 inch here. Got a little bit of smoke coming out of his rotors here. So I want to save that Vulcan for last because, again, that Vulcan is the key to securing more than than what I currently have. This Locust, so I'm going to move this Pursuit Lance. This Locust that's being bloodstalked, I'm going to just be a jerk. Now, this is level 1. This is level 1 water. So basically the way that works, or water if you don't have a Northeast Philadelphia accent, but I do. So it's level 1 water. And so this basically, in order to move into it, it's just your normal +1 in. And you got to go down a level and then back up the level to get out, right? So it's going to cost me essentially 2 to get in and then 1 to get out. So additional 1 to get out. So it's going to basically cost me 5 inches of my movement to get across it. So if I sprint 12, if I do the math right, he can get to about here. And again, this little dice just reminds me that he's the one that is being bloodstalked, as it were. So this guy is going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to subtract the the movement for going in and out. This guy is actually going to jump to here. Now he has weak jump jets because he only jumps 5. So it's going to be a little bit less of a TMM. He's still going to get a TMM of 3, which is pretty good. And then this Commando, I have to kind of leave him put for now. So, we'll just move him a little bit so that he gets his TMM. And that's that for that Lance. So I've moved both the helicopter and the Pursuit Lance, so back over to the Atrean Knights to move that Command Lance. Alright, so back with the Atrean Knights Command Lance. I've got some ideas here, so I'll talk you through it as I go. I want to move Sweeper up to the corner of the woods here. This is a sprint move. This puts him in nice position next turn to turn this corner. I'm not concerned about him facing down that Vulcan and that Merlin. Of course, Prybar is a little bit of a different story, and that King Crab, but we'll see. Hopefully we can present a few different targets for that mech. Vegas is just going to go 1 inch up the coast and then spend the remaining 3 inches of movement to get down and in the water. And that is basically going to allow her next turn to get out. And I want her to kind of move up into this central area. She'll be absolutely in the dead zone, but she can block line of sight from that King Crab. And this will give me the opportunity to either pitch to the left flank and support, because remember, with that overheat and with combat intuition, it will be nasty a couple turns from now against those lighter mechs. Conversely, she can also provide supporting fire on the right flank as she gets to that center position. Broadsword is going to provide dedicated right flank support to the Wolverine. So I want to move him up. He's going to walk right up here. This is still on dry land, so he's just going to basically get right here, churn through the rubble, and that'll give him good line of sight. And then the Zeus is actually going to move back this way. So I want to move him to here. Now, this gives him actually some shots here, I think, maybe not. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to sprint him. We're going to just get him back in the fight, because I want to get him back around. I know they have Bloodstalkers, so that might make them a little hungry to close in a bit more. But really, there isn't much he can do. I think this flank is well under control. And if Prybar gets into the fight, I plan on using basically the water, the buildings, the trees to limit his line of sight and try to isolate him from the battle as much as I can. Okay, so I have some decisions to make here with Prybar. Do I sprint to get him into that main battle quicker, or do I walk so that I can turn and fire on that Corsair wherever it might go? Because that thing is a pain in my butt. I really want to take it down. And it is going to harass that Vulcan. So if I can move Prybar, and I already spent, last turn, I actually ended up, and I don't know if I mentioned this, I actually ended up just moving him into a sprint based on the distance he went. So I could move him to here this turn with a walk. It would open up some options. So I think that's what we're going to do. I don't think I'm going to sprint him. We're just going to move him down into this valley right here. Still have 6 points of luck. You know, thought about using one last turn on the Vulcan shot against the Corsair, but honestly, I didn't think it would be such dire straits as we are in right now. Again, that 12 hit on the Cyclops was brutal. The thing has so much structure, 6 pips left, so tough. All right, anyway, I'm whining. Very, very upset about it. I am excited about this move, though. This is cheese to the max. So I'm going to jump the Vulcan and land him in this water here. And what that is going to do is a couple of things. One, it's level 1 water, so that's going to basically drop his chassis down a whole level. So you imagine he's submerged up to his waist. With the rock there, I would say that completely blocks line of sight to anyone shooting him from this angle. So the Marauder, the Rifleman, really going to be unable to see that Vulcan. Now when Sweeper does get around the corner, if that Vulcan's still there, that's a clear shot, but I think job well done there. I just kind of saw that from this side of the table. Did not anticipate it when I was moving on the other side. So pro tip, walk around the table while you're playing. You'll see all sorts of new things. Anyway, what am I doing with this freaking Merlin? I don't even know, guys. So I'm just going to jump him and pray. Because the Marauder can basically hit all the way to the edge of the table, and I don't want to push the Merlin that far out of the fight. So, you know, part of me really wants to go for that Vulcan. You know, I would need 8s to hit it, and if I land all 3, I still wouldn't put it in withdrawal. So there's really nothing I can do about getting the Vulcan out of that quadrant, and unfortunately, this turn, it seems like the, you know, barring a miracle, it seems like these Donegal Guard are actually going to score a control point as they have finally outmaneuvered and pushed in on these Atrean Knights. So that's an important it's an important turn of the tide. However, I think Torch is now's the time with the Inferno bombs. I think she's going to do a flyby on this King Crab. And I think what I am going to do is a dive bombing run. So, you know, we're just basically, again, flying to here. So she's going to end up just beyond those locusts. So I will move the chip to here. So we know exactly where she goes off on the other side of the board. And essentially she's just going to be screaming in here. And I will be dropping one of those delicious Inferno bombs. It's not going to do anything this turn, but next turn, if that King Crab shoots, it's going to be at a +2 to hit, and we're at half movement, half TMM. Actually, I'm sorry, -2 inches to movement and -1 TMM, so no TMM, and basically we'll only be able to move 1 inch. So that's a big benefit if I can hit. I think I'm going to come in here at medium range. A medium range attack will make my target number 8. A short range attack, if I'm at low altitude, basically makes it a 7. You know, I debated on it, and honestly, I think the King Crab might be too incentivized. It may shoot the fighter anyway. I'm not sure. It does have line of sight to those other mechs, but we'll see. So, anyway, tough decisions here. A lot of this stuff, you know, it's on the edge of a knife, even though that Cyclops is destroyed. Pryvar still a force to be reckoned with, and this pursuit lance being very aggressive on the Donegal right flank. So, guys, turn 4 shooting coming right up. We'll start with those Atrean Knights. We're going to start out with these Atrean Knights armor assets. They're all targeting that Jenner. We're going to see what kind of damage we can do. Armor on that thing is heavy, but at least, you know, we can see if we can do a little bit of damage. Both those locusts out of line of sight, Commando out of line of sight. So here we go. Need 10s for those Scorpions. First shot. Actually, you know what? I need 12s with the Scorpions because the Bloodstalker rule states if you shoot anybody else, you need to add a +2 target modifier. So that sucks. The Hunter. We're going to just roll right into the Hunter. Hunter needs a 9 at extreme range. Oh, man. looked like it was almost there, and then the dice fell over. All right, so that is that for the armor. Vegas is up first. Now she is one level down in depth 1 water, basically. And so she can't see really anything except for that helicopter just hovering up there in the sky, taking shots at whatever it can. So she is going to try to shoot it out of the sky. Here we go. I need an 11. So many high numbers here. Oh my goodness, that is awful. Broadsword. Not intimidated by the king crab. He is taking shots across the little river there, the snaking river, over the swampy hill. And we need, remember, he's an elite pilot, skill 2. He's only going to need 7s to hit this king crab at extreme range, which is pretty darn good. Here we go. Only 1 point of damage, but we'll take it. So 1 point on that king crab. Here we are, torch representing the 502nd Atrean fighter wing, just ready to drop an inferno bomb on that king crab. Can we do it? Need an 8. Here we go. It's magic. All right, so napalm explodes around that king crab. Steam and flame cooking off the chassis. That's going to be 2 points of heat. That hurts. That hurts more than damage, I think. So that king crab under some fire, figuratively and literally. Now we're going to be moving into the Donegal Guard. See what they can do to retaliate. This Corsair has gone unaddressed for too long. The Donegal Guard now dedicating some firepower to it. So the way it works is because I'm at medium range, I add essentially 6 inches to the range of the attacking mech to basically the line at which this unit moves across the table. So the Vulcan is about 13 inches away. It's at the medium altitude, right? So I add another 6 to that. That puts the Vulcan at long range. So the Vulcan is going to need to make an attack. Basically, it is skill 3. The airspace fighter automatically basically has a TMM of 2 at all times. It's just how it works. So it seems like it should be higher, but you know, who am I? Who am I to say such things? So the Vulcan again needs a 3. It's at long range, so 6. It jumped 8, and then 10 for the airspace fighter, and then at long range it's a 0 star. So let's see if we hit first, and we do not. All right. So the next thing is it's as she streaks across the table here, the line, remember I'm looking from there to where it started, the commando is 12 inches away from that line. And that means that if I add 6 inches to that, it puts me at 18, and so the commando doesn't have any long-range weapons, it cannot shoot. The Jenner, however, the line basically crosses right over the Jenner, so the Jenner can just sort of twist and aim up and shoot, and then again, you know, add 6 inches, so it's essentially at medium range here. So, Jenner actually does 2 points at medium range. Jenner's skill 4. Get it jumped, so we're at 6. Short range 7 with our targeting rules. I'm sorry, medium range 8. And then 9, 10 for aerospace. So we're going to chain fire these. I guess that's why the aerospace fighters don't have higher TMMs. But either way, these Donegal units cannot hit this Corsair. Alright, so this Warrior, the only shot it can take is on that Corsair. It is the Gabriel just out of range there. So actually I need a 7 to hit the fighter here. Very close. Oh, it does not get it. Unbelievable. Moving on to the Merlin. So this Merlin, skill 3, it jumped essentially. It's skill 5. The Marauder has a TMM of 1, 6. It's extreme range. So I'm going to need a 10. Needs a 10 on 1 point of damage. Close here, close. Okay, so Prybar actually needs only a 9. So it does not have that jumping penalty, but does have partial cover, that Marauder, behind that large ridge line. So I think I'm going to go for broke here. You know, because I have that luck point. So I think what we're going to do here is we're just going for it. Here we go. So we're going to spend that luck point and re-roll. Eesh. Alright, so only 1 point of damage to that Marauder. Broadsword, again, defiantly staring down this just vicious King Crab, but Prybar unable to connect, perhaps shaken by the death of his longtime drinking buddy Scrapper. I assume that's what Steiner folk do in their free time. Alright, so everything has shot on both sides of the table. Let's take a look at the objective points. So again, we have full half-table control here. The aerospace fighter does not contest. Basically, we've got half the board here controlled. In addition, that Vulcan in that back top quadrant, or whatever it is, not a quadrant, that slice, if you will. And it is contested by this Gabriel. However, size 2, size 1, he wins it. So House Steiner here, the Federated Commonwealth, I should say, owning 5 to the Atrean Knights 3. So they will score an objective point. That's big in this game. It is 1-0, moving on to turn 5. All right, Wargamers, it is turn 5. The Donegal Guard up 1 objective point here to none. Now, I have the opportunity to redeclare my Bloodstalker ability here. I'm thinking this. Now, I see this King Crab pushing up, and either they're going to reposition some of their lights, they're either going to leave their locusts just sitting around. I mean, if I was this Jenner, and I knew that, if I, for example, switched Bloodstalker to the Jenner at the beginning of the turn, if I was the Jenner, I'd bug out, move behind those rocks, claim some cover, because they really don't need to push up any further. They just need to control 5 of the 8 slices, and they'll continue to win on points. So I have to push these Scorpions up a little bit. I need to declare, a new target for their Bloodstalker ability. I honestly think what I'm going to do is really just leave it on that locust, because eventually I'm going to get around those trees. So that's basically what I'm going to do. Now, in terms of initiative, again, the Atrean Knights won. So they won by a margin of just one point here, so 8-7. So I did not need to use that Tactical Genius ability. However, it does give me an opportunity here to leverage my Combat Intuition. Now, the thing with Combat Intuition is I can only use it once every 3 turns, which sucks. I can't see that Vulcan, so my thought was maybe I can use it early to try to shatter that Merlin, but I can't get through its armor. So really, on paper it seems like such a powerful ability, but it is in fact so very situational, because you can only use it once every 3 turns, and you really want to be at the right range with the right target number. So I'm probably going to hold off on using that on the Atrean Knight side. But enough tactics. Why don't we head to the Donegal Guard side of the table and move some mechs. Okay, so per usual, this warrior is going to continue its meager withdrawal, just moving 1 inch at a time. That'll be enough to allow it to claim its TMM. I think I know what I'm going to do with this Pursuit Lance, so that's what I'm going to start with. And really what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this Locust to here. I'm going to move the other Locust right next to it, and they're going to hold down that forest area. This Jenner really needs to be in command of this slice here, so I'm going to jump him back, and he has a 5-inch jump, so I'm going to move him to there. And those Locusts just did a standard move, no sprinting. And then this guy I'm actually going to move into this quadrant here, and I am going to do, I guess it really doesn't matter, I don't need to sprint, so I don't think there's any issues. Well, actually, you never know. You never know when that aerospace fighter will come calling. So I will sprint the Commando to get that TMM maxed out, and that will be the end of the move for the Pursuit Lance. Alright, so now the Knights need to move. Psychologically, I sort of want to wait on moving my Command Lance because it's going to make them a little panicky, because if they move into a bad spot, I could potentially nuke them before shooting even happens, which is phenomenal. And, that's worth its weight in gold. The one thing I lament here is this this Zeus move that I made last round. I was really thinking he was going to come around and support this vehicle contingent on the flank, but I'm sort of starting to realize that that was a really terrible move. Now the exciting news is I can actually nuke this locust. I will have to shoot through some woods, but you know, there have been worse things. So I might do that with the Zeus. But first, as I said, I'm going to move these vehicles here. So we're going to move these scorpions up. They get 4 inches. And they're still securely in that quadrant, which is great. The other thing I want to start doing is, because these scorpions are going to start pushing into this back quadrant, if I can down one of these 2 locusts and have both my scorpions here, they'll control this quadrant. So in preparation for that, what I might do is move this hunter up on the hill. I have really nothing to fear out on this side of the table. You know, maybe the Merlin can get a long-range shot, but you know, this thing's got enough armor that it can take a few hits. It's going to need to take 4 pips of damage before it goes into forced withdrawal. The reality is, I think I don't want to risk my hovercraft, and I'm just going to do sort of a little cheat move here and move it 1 inch. You know, you can imagine sort of up on the slope here, and keeping it within this, you know, again, this back quadrant. So it's basically going to be here so that I can claim the cover and all that other nonsense. And then I'm hopefully going to rely on the Wolverine and the Corsair to damage that Vulcan. So we'll see how that all goes. But so far, the Knights are done with their vehicles. So the good news is I can move Prybar into the dead zone because, or no man's land, whatever I'm calling it these days, because I've got the Commando covering this, I've got the Jenner covering this, we've got the Locust covering that. The other thing I could do is actually move the King Crab, and that's actually a great idea. I can keep him out of the dead zone and move him to here, which would then allow me to claim this quadrant so I can push up harder with the Merlin. That will make it very difficult for the Knights to push them out of that quadrant there. Now, the Vulcan, dare I just keep him still? I might. I think that's what we're going to do with the Vulcan, is just keep him still. And then we're going to move the Merlin out to here. The question is, yeah, he is in fact over the line. So he's now in this quadrant. We've got Prybar in this, the Commando there, we've got the Jenner Abstract over there, and then the pair of Locusts over there. So a solid 5 slice control, as we might call it, for the Donegal Guard. That's if they can get ahead 2 points, it's going to be tough for the Knights to really pull out of this one. So let's go back to the other side. We'll do the Command Lance, we'll do the Aerospace Fighter, and then we'll get into shooting. So I just came to the awful realization that King Crab can only move 1 inch. So I did just move it back 2 inches. He still was able to make it into this quadrant here, but has no TMM and 2 points of heat. That is crippling, and that is going to cripple the Donegal Guard ability to counterattack this turn. But I'm starting to think like maybe I should just go for attrition here. You know, mission be damned if I can kill some mechs and take them out of the fight. Like if I can knock out that King Crab and they're down the Cyclops as well, they're going to be very, very hard pressed to field anything compelling and dangerous in mission 3. You know, no matter what, the Zeus is basically moving to here, which was again a wasted move last round. I should have just kept them in this area, but yeah, such is life. So if I do this, I'm shooting through about 1 inch of woods. So Vegas is going to spend her movement and get the hell out of this river here. So it's going to cost an extra point to go up, and then basically she can get to here. We know what we're doing with Sweeper. He's basically going right to here. And you can see that Vulcan, and he is, oh boy, he's within 12 inches. I mean, I had an extra inch of movement, and I was going to kind of keep him behind the hill, but I think what I'll do is I'll make sure he's definitively within 12 inches so I don't have an argument with myself. Tom, I miss you. So what do I want to do here with this Marauder? I think what I want to do, honestly, is move this Marauder down and in the water. So again, it's like, just 3 inches, and it's basically +2 to get in. So he's going to just basically spend his entire movement just getting down in the water here. So we are going to do that with the Marauder. We're just going to move him down into the water. And in fact, since he can't see anything, I'm just going to sprint out. Get him out so he's well positioned next turn to make a compelling move. Alright, so we're going to put the aerospace fighter here. We're going to run her right through the back arc there. So basically the chip will go right there, and that'll take her on a line right through that king crab. I think that's the right play. Maybe not for the mission, but again, definitely for the long game. Again, thinking about should I try to kill this? Should I try to kill this? And then again, remove them from these quadrants, opening some big holes in the backfield so that I can start getting more control points. Because at that point they'd be very spread out. But there's still 7 turns left in this game. I'll take it to turn 12 if it needs to go there. Right now, that king crab is the thing that can delete that command lance. I have to take care of it. So this is what we're going to do, guys. Turn 5 shooting is coming up. It could be a big one. Could be a flop. Stay tuned. Here we are on the side of the Atrean Knights, ready to start shooting. We have lots of options here. So the Scorpions are limited. The only thing they can really shoot is that Jenner right now. This Hunter can either shoot the Jenner at extreme range or try to peg that Locust for the same target number at long range. So I think what we're going to do is start with those Scorpions and then decide what we want to do. So again, need 10s here against that Jenner at long range. Almost. Second shot. Alright, so the Scorpion's still firing blindly. And actually, again, remind myself here, needed 12s because of the Bloodstalker special rule. May change that at the beginning of next turn, we'll see. Now this Hunter, I think what I am going to do is go for that Locust. I need 10s, which is not an easy number. Got the cover from the woods, all these other things. So here we go, I get 2 dice. Nope. Nope. Okay, so missiles, autocannon rounds, shelling into that forest and across the river, but the pursuit lance does stand. Now, this Gabriel not shooting anything, just tucked in behind that hill. Sweeper. It's going to take a haymaker here. Going to fire at the Vulcan. Now here's the deal. I have overheat 1. I'm at medium range. That's a damage value of 4. If I hit with everything, this Vulcan goes into withdrawal. If the Vulcan goes into withdrawal, that basically just leaves the Merlin out here controlling this this flank, this slice of the pie, as it were. So Sweeper is a skill 3 pilot. Did a standard move there. Love the Wolverine 2 model. This is another Ares Games and Minis special right there. And so the Vulcan has no TMM but is in partial cover from the water, so that's basically a +1. So again, 3, 5, 6 is all I need. Just 6s, guys. Go big or go home, I say. Going home. So 2 points of damage. Unfortunately, it's not even enough to penetrate the armor or strip it. Just chips the paint a little bit, but it's a start. But unfortunately, that Wolverine now with 1 point of heat. So let's move on to the rest of that command lance. Alright, so I've come to realize here that actually the Donegal Guard, since they lost initiative, should be shooting first. Would not really have affected my decision making on any of the other shots. However, whether or not the King Crab fires this turn, I think does affect what I do with the rest of that battle lance. So let's make some decisions here. I'm going to start out with this Warrior helicopter, who once again is going to be firing on Torch as she streaks across into the rear armor of that king crab. So she is going to be at medium altitude again, and so this warrior is going to be at medium range. Here we go. So not only is that a hit, but finally that warrior just finds something critical. The cockpit, who knows? What is it? That is no critical hit on the aerospace table. So Torch getting very lucky. The autocannon fire from that warrior just hitting something. Now that Corsair trailing smoke, but obviously able to lock down that stabilizer. This Jenner's up next, needs 10s to hit that Corsair. Here we go. Oh man, medium lasers flying. So that's 2 points of damage, almost 3, almost hit the threshold. 2 points of damage against Torch. She's starting to get banged up a little bit. Need to be, I think, maybe conservative with this unit for the remainder of the game here. But that is that. That Commando thankfully can't shoot. So now it's up to the King Crab and the Merlin. What do I want to do? Well, I think this Merlin certainly shooting the Wolverine. Going to need a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just 2 points of damage. We're going to group 5. There it is. 2 points on that Wolverine. Great shot by Blaster. Obviously feeling a bit of vengeance for his fallen Commandant or Hauptmann or whatever the heck the ranks are in House Steiner. I know so many of you could tell me this. You're much better at the Steiner lore than I am. But there you go. So 2 points on that Wolverine. That's definitely going to leave a mark. And now the King Crab, I have some thinking to do. Alright, so I thought very carefully about this. I thought about overheating and just shutting down for the turn and just getting 6 points of damage on that Corsair. But then I realized it's just going to strike me. Maybe if I don't shut down, maybe I'll drop another Inferno Bomb on it. Ugh, I don't even know what I'm going to do, guys. This is crazy. So I think what's going to happen is my options were threefold. Shoot the Wolverine, shoot the Marauder, shoot the Aerospace Fighter. The Marauder I would need 10s to hit. I would be at long range, get 4 dice. The Wolverine extreme range would only get 3 dice and need, I believe, 11s with the heat penalty. And then the Corsair I only need 9s to hit, and I get 4 dice at medium range. So that's what we're going to do. Going for the Corsair. Now, I believe it has 3 pips left. So let's see what we get here. I need 9s. It's 1 point. That's just 1 point of damage. But I will tell you, that's 3 points in the turn. I need to check the rules. I'm not sure if the control check is just in a single shot or over the course of the turn. Okay, so no control roll check. Actually, there's never a control roll check. I'm not sure where I got that from. It's actually a critical hit if you exceed the threshold, but it does need to be in a single attack. So we basically have 2 units to shoot. We have the Zeus, and we have the MVP of the last game, Vegas, in her trusty Rifleman 4D. All right, so Vegas, actually where her cockpit is positioned, cannot see enough of the King Crab, so it is actually considered obscured. If you can't see a certain percentage of the unit by the rules, that unit is not viable as a target. So basically more than 2/3 of that mech is completely covered, but I can torso twist and shoot that Locust. And so that's what she's going to do. She needs an 11 to hit, which is not an easy number.
Hell yeah!
Wow. She's on fire in this campaign, possibly getting a promotion to elite status for the next one. So that pegs that Locust. It is 1 point of damage, and of course we get a delicious critical hit. Now these are ENE based mechs. That means, they have the ENE special rule, which is energy, so I cannot trigger an ammo explosion on a double 1, but another 12 will put this thing out of its misery. Let's see what we get. Ah, man, a 9. So no critical hit there, but still a pretty good opening shot. I think that's just what the Scorpions have needed. So that's great. 1 point of damage on that Locust. What can Falcon do? Let's see. Falcon, torso twisting. I love this mech. I need to magnetize all of them. He's going to be shooting that Locust too. Needs 10s. He's a little bit of a better pilot, a little bit of a better gunner. Let's see though if he can nail a 12 like Vegas did. Nope. Man, so 2 points on that Locust. That Locust is stripped of armor. One more pip and it goes into withdrawal. That's not bad. That's not a bad round of shooting. Now, the Corsair. Well, I thought about this one for a while. I could strike and deal potentially 4 points of damage to this mech, or I can dive bomb it and drop another Inferno Bomb. So if I drop the Inferno Bomb, Prybar would be completely shut down and immobile next turn. We've got the Marauder who would have line of sight. Vegas can move up. The Zeus can move up the river line basically to there and would have a clean line. And we could absolutely just shatter that mech if we so desired. Regardless, I think dropping the Inferno Bomb on the mech, taking it out of commission for a whole turn, right in the meat of the battle, is probably the most tactically sound thing I've ever thought of. So we're going to go for it, guys. I need a 7. Can we get it? Well, like all bombs, these things scatter. So when we scatter, I just use the Games Workshop dice. This center blast has the darker arrow, which will indicate which direction it's going. The other ones, obviously, you just follow the arrow. And then it scatters 2d6 inches, but of course 1d6 because we are halving the distance. So the bomb was dropped basically dead center on that king crab, and it is a 1-inch AoE. Okay, so let's first roll for the scatter direction. Okay, so there's that. It is going in that direction, and here is the dice to determine how far it's going. If we roll a 1, so that is a miss. That is a miss. That's brutal. But that is what the Donegal Guard needed. That is, again, that's important for them. If that king crab was shut down next turn, it would have just been a field day for the Knights. So that is it. Now Torch is out of bombs, and that is it. We're just on to striking and strafing for the rest of the game. Now the shooting is all wrapped up. We've got a Locust that got pretty heavily damaged. We've got that Vulcan that took a nasty shot from the Wolverine, but just not nasty enough. Again, could have been so much worse for the Donegal Guard, but they are holding on. And in fact, they're scoring another objective point. They control 5 of the 8 zones here. That is pretty epic. So it is a 2-0 game, although this looks awfully familiar to the last mission where the Donegal Guard were ahead early in the game and the Atrean Knights managed to come back. So will it be another rally, or will it be a rout? Turn 6 coming up. Alright, Wargamers, it is turn 6. Falcon leading his Atrean Knights in this aggressive move in this swamp. Apparently such a tactical genius that I don't even need to use his tactical genius ability. The Atrean Knights winning initiative again, 11-6. So this King Crab, sitting on a bunch of luck, just cooking with heat right now. I don't even know where to use the luck, to be honest, guys, because the target numbers have been so high. The Merlin obviously had a decent one and scored both hits, but otherwise this heavy battle lance really struggling, and of course this pursuit lance sort of strung out, and now these locusts about to get hemmed in by these very annoying scorpion tanks. So the guards do need to make the first move. This VTOL doing what it does best, which is just a slow roll backwards here towards the deployment zone. I think it will stay at altitude 6. I don't think I need to go any higher or any lower than that. It's just going to shoot what it can shoot. I also need to figure out what I'm doing with these mechs. Now these locusts, I could try to get aggressive with those scorpion tanks, but frankly I'm a little afraid of them. They do have that Bloodstalker ability. And so, they'll be hitting a little easier on that one locust, negating some of its high TMM. This Jenner, of course, needs to be in this quadrant. This commando needs to be in this quadrant. So now I feel like I'm sort of crumbling a little bit in the backfield. I want to get this Jenner in the fight. I mean, I think strategically I was hoping to sweep these guys around, but now with Scrapper destroyed, I needed to move this King Crab out. It sort of was a bit of an issue there. So anyway, this Jenner, I am just going to move it to here. This Commando, same deal. Just going to move him and really sprint him back to here. These Locusts, I could take them as far back as here. So I could get them out of range of that Zeus and the Rifleman, which I may do. I think I'm just going to move this guy to here, and then this other one, get him to here. That'll give him a +4 TMM, even with the Scorpion's ability. I mean, I can't run from them forever, and I don't want to go around that corner because it's going to put them in the line of fire of Vegas and some of those other Atrean Knight heavy mechs, which doesn't seem to be like a wise thing to do. All right, so on to the other side of the table. So per the plan, we are going to rumble these Scorpions ahead. Now remember, if we can knock out one of those Locusts, and I can get both of these Scorpions over the halfway point, which it looks like I can, then I can actually take control of this back quadrant. So I need to move this guy up a little bit. We're just going to move him up a couple of inches here. I'll make sure he's outside of the dead zone. So I am in fact going to get aggressive with this little guy. And we are going to just move him right here, zip him right over the water. And I'm going to put him right up on the table edge here. And that is not going to be a sprint. That way he's well positioned to get his little gun in the fight there. Depression setting in. I mean, these Guard have a 2-0 lead, but again, really struggling to see a way out of this one long term over the next even 2 to 3 turns. If I can take out this Wolverine, I might have an opening. And so what I am going to do is sit this King Crab still. He's in this zone here. We've got the Commando in this zone, Jenner in this zone, Locusts in that zone back there. So I think we're good with where the King Crab is. This Vulcan, if I move him out of the water, the Rifleman and Marauder will be able to shoot him. I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to keep him behind this rock, but move him far enough that he would get his TMM. So I'll put the stationary marker here on that King Crab. This might be the turn that I try to use as much luck as possible. I'm just going to move the Merlin right up to the edge of the water and hopefully be able to get a good medium range shot, which puts the Merlin in overheat range as well, because the Merlin has a point of overheat. Alright, so that's it. That's the heavy battle lance. That's all we got. So moving on to the Atrean Knight command lance. So we're going to move broadsword here. We're going to keep him inside the, or I should say outside of the dead zone. So I do need to move him up just a couple of inches. There you go. Now we can see him. So that's what we'll do. Put him here. So we're gonna run her, or just walk her to here. She's gonna be in no man's land, but that's all right. Not too concerned about it. So I have a bad feeling this King Crab is gonna want to target this Wolverine, and so there's really nothing I can do to stay outside of its range, but I can be smart and stay outside of its long range and stay in the extreme range bracket. So you can see 21 inches here. So I want to kind of keep this Wolverine out in this space here. So I do need to spend an inch to go up, an inch to go down. So really I'm only going to get 3 inches of movement. I can get him to like here. Just double check and make sure it is outside of long range. He does have this awful point of heat. But he should be able to torso twist, lay down some hurt. So guys, that is that. We're moving on to our aerospace fighter. So lots of options with the aerospace fighter. There were 2 primarily that I was thinking about. So first and foremost, not worrying about the king crab. Just going to ignore that. It has so much armor. I missed that critical bomb. So I'm just going to leave it alone. I mean, doing another 3 points of damage isn't going to do a whole lot to it. And my command lance really isn't well positioned right now to unload on it. So I am in fact going to go for the Merlin. I might be regretting this because, again, less people have line of sight to the Vulcan. But I think taking this thing out puts me at a 3-point to 2-point advantage in overrunning this quadrant. I would control it. So that factored into the decision. Okay, guys, we are wrapped up for movement in turn 6. Everything is moved. We are going to get into shooting. Lots of things to think about. The Donegal Guard will kick us off, and then we'll move into the Atrean Knights. All right, this is it. This is, I think, the meat grinder that's going to decide things. So the Merlin, Blaster, and his buddy in the Vulcan are teaming up on Sweeper here. They both need 7s to hit the Wolverine. Now, Blaster here is going to overheat, and that's going to give him 3 points of damage at medium range. Now, one important thing to note, when you have 1 point of heat, you lose a point of movement, but it does not affect your TMM. So Sweeper was only able to move 4 inches instead of 5, but his TMM still at a 2. So here we go, looking for those 7s. I'm going to group fire, guys, going for broke. Go big or go home. I just said last time I said that didn't go so well, so here we go. This time it worked out. 3 points of damage. That is huge. If I didn't say it already, guys, this is critical. That Vulcan, if it can deal 1 point of damage to the Wolverine and puts it in forced withdrawal, which again, huge for this whole quadrant control piece. So here we go. This is it. Can we get a 7? An 11. So it is an internal shot. That Wolverine Sweeper now in forced withdrawal, falling back, unable to hold down this critical zone and the critical hit.
How does that taste? Free world's filth.
So there it is. So that is going to be a fire control hit, if I'm not mistaken. So that Wolverine really in rough shape. Sensors damaged, armor stripped, internal structure exposed. Not looking good so far for the Atrean Knights. On the other hand, the Donegal Guard off to a great start. And they still have that nasty King Crab ready to bear down on somebody. King Crab, not concerned about this Wolverine anymore, turning his attention to the Marauder, and should I say keeping his attention on the Marauder. Needs 9s, courtesy of that heat penalty, which is, again, just brutal. So I'm going to, all things considered, 9s aren't terrible, but, so here we go, looking for 9s. 1 point. 2 point. 2 points. Well, it was off to a good start there, but 2 points of damage on that Marauder. It's not really enough to hurt it. It's about 33% of its armor stripped off, but better than nothing. So that King Crab struggling with that heat penalty. Maybe I should have just not shot with him, but God, it's do or die at this point in the battle, so we'll see. I'm going to start with the Corsair. Torch, striking in the rear arc, needs 6s. See what kind of damage we can do to this Merlin. We're going for a group fire here. Alright, so almost everything, but still 3 points of damage, not bad. That's a great opening salvo against that Merlin. 50% of its armor melted away. Trying to be strategic here in my shots. Broadsword does have line of sight to that Vulcan from his angle. And additionally, even though that hill is in the way, he's close enough to it that I can see the Vulcan's feet, which means that if it was halfway submerged, I would still have clear line of sight to the upper half of its body. So it does get, of course, the +1 partial cover bonus for being in depth 1 water, and that means that Broadsword is skill 2, 2 for the TMM of the Vulcan, medium range is 6, and then partial cover is 7. Now, I can overheat. I need to deal 2 points of damage to this Vulcan to put it into forced withdrawal. So I just need 2 7s here. Pulling the trigger. Broadsword, unleashing just a lethal hail of PPC and autocannon and medium laser fire.
Enemy mech destroyed.
Nuked. That is a destroyed battle mech. Just a gout of smoke pouring out of the water where the Vulcan falls. I still need to roll a critical hit per the campaign rules to see what happens in terms of salvage. So it is a 6. That is a what is that? A weapon hit, I believe. So you know, that'll actually reduce the amount of salvageable gear from that Vulcan, which is unfortunate, as I do like to line the coffers with spare Vulcan actuators. But such is life, as I've been saying all night. And so we will move on to the rest of this lance. We still have the Wolverine, the Gabriel, Vegas and her Rifleman, Falcon and his Zeus there. So still lots of firepower to bring to bear on this Merlin. Vegas and her Rifleman, torso twisting through the smoke and the debris of the exploding Vulcan. Let's loose a couple of PPCs at that Merlin. She needs 7s. Here we go. No good. Too much debris. Perhaps she also shot the Vulcan. So now we're going to move into Sweeper here. Sweeper has the ability to overheat here. Actually, what I'm going to do is start with this Gabriel. Let's do that. Gabriel is skill 4. So he is going to need a 6 to hit here. Again, +1 for short range, +1 for that Merlin's TMM. Here we go. Ah, man, that sucks. All right, so hopefully I got all these 1s out of my system. I think I am going to overheat with Sweeper. It's going to need 7s to hit after doing the math. That includes the heat penalty, medium range, and all of these things. If I can land all 4 of these, it will be an internal shot on the Merlin, but just not enough to put it into withdrawal. And I don't think Falcon has a clear shot from across the table there, but we'll see. Here we go. Looking for 7s.
What goes around comes around, tough guy.
There it is. All right, so 4 points of damage, just barely, to that Merlin. So that's going to be, again, an internal structure shot. 2 more points of internal structure, I believe, will put this mech into withdrawal. But let's see what this critical hit does first, guys. A 5, nothing. All right, so it just blows a hole through the back of the mech, but no critical components are damaged. The Zeus through the trees to the Merlin. It is through 2 inches of forest. However, the Merlin has no partial cover from, being in water, and the hill doesn't block enough of the mech. So again, only 9s to hit. It's doable. If I land them both, the Merlin goes into forced withdrawal. If I land none of them, the Donegal Guard will control that quadrant, because the only things there, the Gabriel, the Merlin wins on size. So the Donegal Guard potentially with another point. All right, here we go. So let's see what we got here. Falcon, opening fire. Can we get it? I think that's the same roll I had with the Rifleman. This is where Tactical Genius sucks and Lucky is awesome, by the way. So that is a miss. The Merlin still stands. Not sure how I want to proceed on this side of the table. Even with Bloodstalker, I need freaking 10s to hit this Locust. Unbelievable. So I'm going to go for it. Here we go. No and no. And this Hunter tank needs 11s. I'm going to shoot this damaged Locust here, see if I can put it into withdrawal. Excited I saw the 6, but still nothing. Alright guys, so shooting is over. The Donegal Guard score yet another objective point, making it 3-0. Now these Scorpions did move into this zone here and are negating the Locust's control there. They're basically contesting it, and their size is identical. Donegal Guard controlled that, that, and of course that, because that Merlin still on its feet, and the Wolverine enforced withdrawal. So 4 zones to 3 in favor of the Guard. They're going to move the needle on the objective points. But it could go either way here. I mean, the Donegal Guard, while they are in firm control from an objective perspective, their mechs are dropping like flies. So we'll see. These Atrean Knights really haven't sustained much damage and still waiting to use that very, very dangerous combat intuition ability. So, turn 7 coming up, guys. Stay in your seats. You're not going to want to miss this. All right, here we are, turn 7. Very interesting game. Lots of units carrying heat right now. One team securely in the lead from a points perspective, but seems like they're getting beaten just from a mech and unit perspective, a unit health perspective. Unfortunately, the Knights lost initiative and then used the tactical genius ability and still lost. So the way it works, which honestly it's a little silly in my mind. So the Donegal Guard rolled an 11, the Knights rolled like an 8 or whatever, and I re-rolled it. And I went to the rule book, and both sides don't re-roll, only you re-roll. So if they get like a 12, you basically lose no matter what. So it's sort of I thought like both teams would re-roll, but it's interesting. I guess it keeps it balanced, but considering you can only use it once every 2 turns, the Knights need to move first. They have no combat intuition going on, so I need to think about what I want to do here. Okay, so after thinking about it, I am actually going to move the mechs first. You know why? Because either they'll respond by moving their heavies, and then I can adjust the vehicles accordingly, or they'll move their pursuit lance, which will give me a little bit of an edge when I decide where to move those scorpions. This Wolverine does need to move back, again, a full inch. So I'm just going to back him up to here. I'm debating on whether or not I want to just try to keep him alive, because he is a valuable unit. But I think right now I need to play aggressive if I'm going to win this game. I have to kill that Merlin. So that's going to be pretty key to this whole thing. Now, my Zeus is sort of stuck, because if I move him forward in advance, I've got nobody to cover this. So I think what I'm going to do is just keep him planted. He has, again, pretty decent line of sight to a variety of units here. So we're just going to keep the Zeus still. The Marauder, who does, again, have a point of heat, I can spend a point of movement. Oh, actually, I cannot, because, again, he's got a point of heat. So I'm just going to skirt the ridge line here. So I think I'm going to just keep pressing forward with her. That's it, guys. That's all I got for these mechs. So we'll mark them up, and then we'll move on to the Donegal Guard. So in retrospect, last turn what I should have done with these locusts is move them into the woods, and then this turn I could have came out and attacked those scorpions at point blank. So this turn, I mean, I can't move them this way because I'll move them out of, I could move them maybe into here, but I think I just need to try to get these scorpions down. So I'm going to move and hopefully rely on their high TMM to keep them alive. This Jenner, what I might do here is actually jump it to here. And I'm hoping, well, that scorpion is a little bit out of range, but maybe if it moves up a little bit, I can get a shot on. I probably should have played a little bit more aggressively with the Jenner as well. But again, I was relying on that Vanguard on the heavy battle lance. Just didn't work out. Of course, still sitting on a ton of luck as well, because I keep hitting with everything on the on that with the Vulcan and the Merlin. They basically slammed everything in. And with the King Crab, again, the target numbers are so high, when I'm rolling 50-50 for it, it just doesn't seem beneficial to re-roll. But, alright, so that's the pursuit lance. I gotta move this dude back too. So he's just gonna do his thing. I'm not even sure. I'm not in range of anything with him anymore, which is, because he doesn't have any extreme range. So maybe now that Vegas moved up, no, still not in range. I'm debating on just retreating this guy off the board, to be quite honest. I think I'll leave him on for this turn. Maybe next turn if things go south. All right, back to the other side. All right, so we have our vehicles here. I can move this Gabriel to here. This way the king crab can't see it, and its back is up against the rock, so that Merlin won't be able to get any back shots on it. And it can have pretty good, basically could probably get a back shot on the Merlin unless the Merlin pivots. So that's a good thing, I think. And then as far as these tanks go, I actually think I want to keep these Scorpions standing still. I'm gonna get crazy, and I think I'm gonna do the same thing with the Hunter. I mean, if one of those Scorpion tanks dies, I mean, so be it. But remember, it's just outside of range of that Jenner, so only the Locust will be able to shoot at it. And they are skill 4, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. Another thing, a shame with the Pursuit Lance, their whole Bloodstalker ability was wasted. This was not a great mission to pick the Pursuit Lance. I thought the Bloodstalker would actually be really useful. Maybe what I should have done is actually split the Pursuit Lance up in retrospect. We'll talk about that more in the after action report. But all of the Atrean Knight units are now moved, and so we're going to finish up with the King Crab and the Merlin, and then move on to Torch and see what she wants to do. Alright, so I need to think about the health and welfare here of my mechs. I mean, I just need to keep this Merlin alive long enough to hold and contest this area. So I think what I'm going to do is walk him back to here. I think range is my friend at this point. Again, getting out of 12 inches of that Wolverine is good. It'll make it basically just neuter it. This Marauder is still terrifying, but I think if I put fire from the Merlin and the King Crab into that Marauder, and I leverage some luck this turn, I think good things might happen. Maybe we can put that mech into withdrawal or get a lucky critical hit. But that's it. Now we've got the Aerospace Fighter to move. Alright, so I thought about it. I had two ideas. One, I thought maybe I could support those Scorpions and take out one of those Locusts, or at least get close enough where I could strafe both of them. But the TMMs are so high on those things. I really want to focus here, because if I can destroy this guy and I can take out those Locusts, I think I would be in great shape. So I am going to do a striking attack. I'm going crazy, guys. I'm low altitude action. She is just going to basically be just outside of medium range of the King Crab, potentially even at extreme range. 16, nope, basically effectively 19 inches. And she's just going to go off the other corner of the map here. Actually on this side, like, kind of like that, if that makes sense. And so we've got this striking attack on the Merlin. We'll see what we can do. Maybe that'll be enough just from her to put him in force withdrawal, and I can turn all three of these heavies and assault mechs onto that King Crab, and we'll see what we can do. So anyway, guys, turn 7 shooting coming up. The Donegal Guard in a commanding lead from a points perspective, but again, their forces just getting ravaged. And I'm thinking about this again from that campaign perspective. I'm not sure, even if they walk away with this with the forces that they have, they don't have too much left in the on the roster there. So we'll see. We'll see. We might have to hire some mercenaries or something to get into Game 3. But for now, let's see what happens in turn 7. There they are, the little Bloodstalkers, hungry for some locust meat. So I got a 7 and an 8 to hit. 7 on this lead guy, 8 because this guy's shooting through an inch of woods. So here we go. I think this Bloodstalker ability, I gotta be honest with you, is not really worth its weight, but I don't know. We'll see. Here we go. Looking for the 8 first. We'll go for the harder one first. Oh, man. And the 7. Man, these Scorpions are awful. So this hunter is going to shoot this damaged locust here. If I can do 1 point of damage to it, it puts it in forced withdrawal. And assuming both of these scorpions survive, that means they'll basically control that zone. So that's good. That's good news. Now the scorpion, the hunter is at long range. The locust has a TMM of 3, so I'm looking at a 6, 9. Basically, I'm looking at 9s to hit. So I will chain fire these. Does 2 points at long range. Oh, hallelujah. Something hit. So, I mean, you throw enough LRMs to a wall and something will stick. So that locust finally takes a point of damage. It is in forced withdrawal. Success here out on the left flank. Moving on to these big, bad command mechs. Can they do the job? We'll find out. So it's a command lance with a little air support. So we're going to start actually with our striking attack. She needs 6s to strike this Merlin. Very low TMM there. So it should be an easy shot. Let's see how much damage we can do to this thing. 2 points puts it in forced withdrawal. Looking for 6s. Come on. Need something good.
Sir, eject. I am not defeated yet.
That is crushing. So that Merlin blaster, just with 1 point of structure remaining. Here comes the critical hit.
Critical hit. Weapon destroyed.
Smoke and fire gushing from the right torso of that Merlin. Weapons are destroyed. Bad news, that mech now in forced withdrawal. And because that Merlin is no longer a threat, the Gabriel is in firm control of that quadrant, which means the rest of the Atrean Knights command lance can turn their attention to that king crab. So we have broadsword, Vegas, Falcon. We're going to start with Falcon. He is at extreme range. He's skill 2, so that's going to put him at a 6. And that king crab in partial cover, so he's going to need in true Falcon form, delivers a critical hit and 2 points of damage to that king crab.
Critical hit. Engine.
Nice shot.
That should seal the deal.
Alright, Vegas is up. She's going to need 6s here to hit this king crab. Very easy shot for her. Alright, that's 2 more points of damage on the king crab. Now, I've made the executive decision, due to the engine critical, that I'm actually not going to fire with the Marauder or the Wolverine. I want that Wolverine to try to bleed off its heat and maybe get the hell off the board next turn. Hopefully it does not get gunned down. We'll see. Of course, that Merlin still able to deal full damage this round, and that king crab still a massive threat. And this little warrior, the only person he is in range of, I believe, is this Gabriel. Does have line of sight to it. It's going to be a hard shot, but you never know. Miracles could happen. And then these locusts on the scorpion. So all that excitement, guys, is coming up next. Atrean Knights are done shooting for now. Blaster. Smoke pouring out of his mech. After 2 battles with the Atrean Knights, he is angry and fatigued. Going for the kill shot on Sweeper and his Wolverine. Needs 7s to take him out. Can we do it? Oh, cannot. Alright, so we have a luck point. We're going to re-roll that. Here we go. Just 1 point of damage. The Wolverine hangs on. Although we do generate a critical hit. A 5. Can you believe it? I mean, I cannot script this stuff, guys. So the Wolverine's still alive. Do I want to waste the king crab trying to kill that Wolverine? I don't know. Let's move on to the warrior first. This warrior chopper valiantly hanging in the sky. Just trying to contribute to this fight, this poor guy. So he's got great line of sight to that Gabriel being elevated so high. This is the advantage of VTOLs, but he still needs an 11 to hit the Gabriel. Here we go. Almost. Now, unfortunately, I cannot expend a luck point because he is not in the battle lance. So that is that. That Gabriel is going to score this turn. I think that was the only thing that could have prevented it. I'm going to save the king crab. Let's head over to those locusts. All right, these locusts sighting down this scorpion. If they can kill that lead scorpion, remember we have one locust in withdrawal, which means it would be a tie in that particular zone, 1-to-1 in terms of size. So that's what we're trying to do here. We need 6s. First locust. Just gets it. All right, so 2 points of that scorpion. The second locust just needs 1 point of damage. And gets it. So the scorpion not destroyed, but forced into withdrawal. So that is good news for the Donegal Guard, at least for what's left here. So moving on to this king crab now. I have to go for the moral victory here. Need to kill that wolverine. There's just, I don't know, nothing else I can really do here with this poor crab. I mean, I could shoot Vegas and strip all of our armor off, but I gotta be honest, things are not looking great here. So, and she's sitting in no man's land, so it really does nothing for me from a strategic perspective. I mean, I guess killing the wolverine doesn't do much either, but at least it does for the campaign. So here we go. I could split fire, but you know, I already need 9s, so let's just go for the kill. Here we go. Oh boy, this will be very depressing. I feel depression setting in, guys. So I have a point of luck. Now remember, I can only use it once per attack. So I just flipped the dice over there. So I can only re-roll one of these chain-fired attacks, not the whole group. Here we go. And it's no good. It's not meant to be. The Wolverine is very wily, difficult to kill. Let's talk about objective points. This was an ugly turn here. So over here, so we've got we've got 1, 2, 3 zones. The one pry bar is in, very very clearly in control by the Donegal Guard. As soon as we get over here, we've got some mess. We've got 1 scorpion in forced withdrawal. So we've got a size 1 and a size 1, and they just sort of wash out. So this area is a tie. The Atrean Knights control this, so they have 1. Falcon is in that one, so that's this one here. That's 2. We clearly control that. That's 3. And now over here, that is where our buddy the Gabriel is just tucked behind the rock here, on the dry ground, in between the smoldering remains of the Vulcan and the damaged Merlin. So that is going to count. Now notice it's close, but he is right on the line there. So he is in this zone. So again, the Knights control 1, 2, 3, 4. Donegal Guard only control 3. So now it's a 3-to-1 game. The Knights are starting to get into the mission here. But, I mean, the Donegal Guard do not have much left. Prybar, who is, basically invincible, despite an engine hit. We've got a couple of Locusts, one of them in withdrawal, though. The Jenner and Commando, which, I mean, they're going to be no match. I mean, Vegas would eat those things alive in one shot. Well, maybe not the Jenner, but the Commando for sure. And then this, again, Merlin on 1 pip. So I don't know what to do with the Donegal Guard, guys. I'm thinking about withdrawing. We're going to go to initiative in turn 8. I'll make my decision then, so we'll see. Turn 8's coming right up. All right, guys, here we are, turn 8. The score, the 7th Donegal Guard, 3. The Atrean Knights have just 1. However, the Donegal Guard in very bad shape. Now, the Atrean Knights won initiative 10-9, so very close. Did not have my tactical genius available, but won it regardless. So this is interesting here. I do need to move. I'm going to play out at least through movement, because here's the deal. In the campaign rules, when you withdraw, you have to be closer to the table edge than you are to an opponent to be able to successfully withdraw. So for example, this Commando is 1 inch from the table, closest enemy, who knows, he can just withdraw, that's fine. The Jenner, about 11 inches from the edge and 12 inches from the closest enemy, he can withdraw. These locusts, after they move, they can withdraw, assuming the scorpions don't run them down, which again, the one is in withdrawal. This Merlin, it's going to be in trouble. The king crab can probably get off the board okay, but it's it's problematic. I mean and so this is, I wanted to show this turn because it's important when you play the campaign. And behind the scenes, like when I play Kevin or Tom, we sort of gentlemen's agreements sometimes. It's like, hey, you kick my ass, can I just withdraw? And that's fine. Like we don't have to nitpick and measure units, but if you're playing, in a tournament, or you're playing and you want to use these rules in a tournament, it does matter. And so I just kind of wanted to show you how it works when you really want to crush somebody's soul and drink their tears. So basically, I need to make sure I get off the board is the goal of the Donegal Guard right now. So I am going to back this Jenner up. Basically, I'm going to jump him to here, and he'll be able to get off the board. This commando can just move off the board, that's fine. I'm going to sprint them back. Again, these guys get 12 inches, so I don't think those scorpions are going to be able to catch them. And frankly, I don't have any interest in trying. The warrior, similarly, can move back here. I don't need to move everything, right? We would normally go back and forth, so what I'm going to do is leave this battle lance for last. But what I did was I just moved the pursuit lance and this helicopter here. Alright, so on the Atrean Knights side, I'm going to play this as if I really didn't like my opponent, which says strange things about this interaction. But assume you really wanted to, again, crush your opponent's soul. What I'm going to do is obviously sprint this dude. He has no heat penalty now, so I can get him 7 inches, factoring in moving down the hill. So he'll be able to withdraw no problem. What I'm also going to do is move. Actually, I'm going to keep my Zeus still because I want to make sure that I get the command points or whatever that I need here, the objective points rather. I'm going to move this Marauder up on the hill, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move Vegas. I want to move Vegas to here. I don't know. I don't want to get too close to this king crab. So now what I'm going to do is activate my combat intuition. I want initiative, and I'm going to try to kill this Merlin before it escapes. This Marauder is going to. What am I? I'm at long range, right? So I can't overheat. But I do have 3 points at long range. Now, because the Merlin has not moved, you assume that it gets its basic TMM, which is 1. So broadsword here is, again, elite pilot, so I need a 2, 3, I need 6s. Here we go.
Enemy
So
mech
that Merlin is
destroyed.
A critical hit, a 7, a motive hit, so I'll record that. And then Vegas is going to take her combat intuition shot. I'm going to just ping that king crab, I think, real quick. Might as well do it. 2 points of damage. King crab can't get a TMM due to the heat penalty and everything else. That's 2 points on the king crab. Alright guys, so the way it works with combat intuition is the damage is resolved immediately. That means that Merlin is dead in the movement phase. And so really all I can do here is sprint this king crab back a couple of inches. He's got all sorts of issues, so I'm going to try to take him around the forest a bit to to kind of cut off line of sight from whoever I can. Actually, in retrospect, maybe what I should do is move it out this way, so kind of cut down the line of fire from the Zeus. But really, that king crab now I measured is closer to the table edge than the other units, so it's going to forego shooting and withdraw, and I think that's going to be it, guys. The swamps of Eaton, housing a critical Donegal Guard repair and refit facility. The Atrean Knights have now just taken it in hopes to slow the war machine of the Federated Commonwealth, at least on this planet, until they can figure out what exactly is going on and why they're being attacked. Today, though, another victory for the Atrean Knights. I'd love to say it was staged, but it wasn't. Those dice rolls just happened the way they happened. That Wolverine miraculously surviving on that outside corner, just dodging fire, incredible. The Corsair Torch just delivering crushing blow after crushing blow, shattering the cockpit of the 7th Donegal Guard commander. It's terrible, terrible blow for morale. Scorpions doing their job, which is basically missing the whole the whole game. And the Donegal Lights and Pursuit Lance still intact, but retreating at maximum speed. And the Battle Lance lying in smoldering ruin. Only Prybar, the implacable, this King Crab, able to withstand the withering hail of gunfire from the Atrean Knights command lance. The Atrean Knights now pushing deep into Donegal Guard territory. Might only be a matter of time before they secure victory on this planet and are able to repair and move on to the true battle on the clan battlefront. Alright guys, there it is, 270 points in the bag. It's in the books for life. So mission 2 of our first Alpha Strike campaign in the tactical report format. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Also featuring brand new mission, Area Denial. So this was the first time I really put this mission through the ringer. And I think it was very tactically intense. So we'll talk about the mission first, and then I'll reflect on sort of the forces and the tactics. So the mission, very cool. I like the big dead zone. It really forces you to play sort of outside and at a longer range, and it makes you really want to consider how you pick your force. Slower mechs are even slower because they can't, sort of traverse the straight line unless you want them to go across the middle. But again, it's a substantial amount of terrain, 24 inches basically from end to end that you need to get through. So it really, again, forces you to think. And in this particular map, I intentionally put the hill in the middle to kind of force those outside fights. And I thought that was pretty interesting. It was tactically very difficult. And again, the map was built before I picked the forces, so that way there was no sort of subconscious bias, if you will. So, I tried to pick forces that I thought would have good range, like that King Crab, but they really struggled to get in the fight. Now, I guess I'll talk a little bit about the tactics. So force building, first and foremost. I really like the formations in Alpha Strike. I'm learning more as I play them. I would never take a Pursuit Lance or Bloodstalker at all in a game like this. I would take it in a pitched battle. I might take it in like an intercept, definitely a take and hold, anything where you're sort of gravitating towards the middle. But in something like this or a seized ground, it just doesn't really benefit as much. Now, it is much better in the Pursuit Lance, where you can just pick a formation as your target if you want, versus what the Scorpions had, which is where they had to go after that one mech. It was awful. And I picked one with a high TMM. I don't know why, I guess because it was on that side of the board, but I should have probably deployed differently. And I probably should have built the forces a little bit differently, frankly. I thought, though, I really thought the Donegal Guard had a superior force. Like, I built the best that I could on either side, and when I looked at 8 mechs versus a command lance and some light vehicles, I was like, man, the Knights are going to get their butts kicked. Like, this on paper looks really unbalanced, even though they were both right around 270 points. But I think what turned the tide is, again, that early head kill on the Cyclops. I mean, that was a moneymaker. And the aerospace fighter in general, I think, really turned the tide of the battle. If I could have landed some earlier shots on it, or that warrior rolled that 12 to hit but couldn't confirm the critical, I mean, any of those little things, right, just turned the whole battle around. And again, losing that Cyclops was big, because not only is it a Cyclops, I don't know if I mentioned this in the beginning, but it's a skill 2 pilot. It was an elite pilot, so that really would have paid dividends and those long-range firefights, you know, where I'm shooting 2 and 3 points of damage at long and extreme range. So that was a key turning point, I think. I think both forces played pretty well. I didn't see any real big mistakes. Like I said, there was at one point where I moved the Zeus in the opposite direction, but you know, that river really sort of hemmed in that command lance, and that was courtesy of the Donegal Guard, you know, picking that specific deployment zone and forcing the Knights in that far corner. I tried to make all the corners as balanced as possible in terms of difficulty and how much water there was. You know, I put that bridge in. I should have marched all the big mechs right over the bridge early on and got them inside that river. But honestly, I was scared of the King Crab. I mean, even the Zeus with 8 pips and the Marauder with 6, I mean, that King Crab can overheat and just destroy stuff. You know, and I'll talk about overheat for a minute. Very, very powerful ability if applied in the right place at the right time. And, you know, heat is detrimental, but when you're looking at overheat 2 or even an overheat 1, just to get that extra point when you need to go internal or you need to put somebody in withdrawal or just to solidify your odds of killing something, again, you know, night and day difference. So, you know, I think both forces utilized the overheat ability very well. So pretty cool there. You know, the Jenner and the Commando just didn't do a thing. They held objectives. And I think that's why the Knights did better, because they had Scorpions to do that, right, which are 11 points. And that's why you need like infantry and things like that. And, you know, I wonder if I would have brought the Goblin with a couple of platoons, and even, you know, you don't even put them in the Goblin, just freaking deploy them like right in that back corner, and just that's what you're holding, that, you know, that one corner where your deployment zone is. You know, that probably would have been a better force than fielding 2 lances of mechs. So kudos, I think, to, you know, Alpha Strike for creating a system where, you know, vehicles and infantry are not artificially more useful than mechs. They're just more useful in different ways, right? Like the Gabriels and the Savannah Masters, being able to move those obscene distances, you know, and things like that. So that's pretty cool. And I think our mission's not to sort of, you know, promote our own product here, but I think the missions really sort of amplify that and really give you a reason to use all of these different units in different ways. So that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. As a reminder, I got some of these minis at our sponsor, Ares Games and Minis. The Corsair and the Hunter, I mentioned that, you know, the Scorpion. So a lot of great minis over there. You can get pretty much anything you want from Ironwind. They have all the supplement books if you need them, if they're available. You can also get some pretty neat things, the old like Robotech, you know, the old school like the longbow, which I love that model. Next time that's in stock, I'm going to grab one of those. So it's got a lot of great stuff on the store, so check that out. And other than that, guys, don't forget to subscribe here. It really helps out the channel. Leave a comment, give us a like. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, stay tuned. Always great stuff coming from Death from Above Wargaming. Guys, have a great night.